I took the night shift because it was quiet. That's what they told me when I transferred. Quiet, predictable, almost boring. The Somerton line had been decommissioned for decades. Its tracks pulled up, its station swallowed by weeds and rust. The dispatch room existed mostly out of habit, a leftover precaution no one had bothered to eliminate. My job was to sit, log automated system checks, and answer the emergency phone if it rang. It almost never did. The room was small and dim, lit by a single desk lamp with a soft yellow bulb. The hum of old equipment filled the space like distant breathing. I liked it that way. Silence, but not emptiness. The first call came at 1:12 a.m. The phone didn't ring loudly. It never did. Just a gentle buzz, like it didn't want to startle me. I picked it up with one hand, still reading the logbook. "Dispatch," I said softly. There was no voice, just breathing. Slow, measured, close to the receiver. I waited, listening. Sometimes the old lines picked up interference, wind through damaged cables, electrical bleed from nearby systems. But this was different. The breathing had rhythm, intent. "Hello?" I tried again. The breathing stopped. Then, tap, 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 tap. Fingertips maybe, or something metallic. I felt a chill creep up my arms. "Is this an emergency?" I asked. The line went dead. I stared at the receiver for a long moment, before placing it back in its cradle. When I checked the call log, the incoming number was listed as Somerton Line, inbound. That line wasn't supposed to exist. The calls came every night after that, always at 1:12 a.m., always the same. Breathing, pauses, sometimes tapping, never words. I began logging them out of habit, then out of unease. The timestamps lined up too neatly. When I cross-referenced them with the archival records, something I probably wasn't supposed to do, I noticed something worse. The calls corresponded to dates, specific ones. Each matched the last known activity of an unidentified passenger reported missing along the Somerton line between 1939 and 1951. People who boarded trains that never officially arrived. Names replaced by case numbers. Lives reduced to margins. I told myself it was coincidence. I told myself that until the tapping changed. On the 6th night, the tapping became deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. Pause. Again. And again. I recognized the pattern before I wanted to. Morse code. My father had taught it to me when I was a kid, tapping it out on the kitchen table late at night when the house was quiet and the world felt smaller. I wrote it down as the caller tapped. When I translated it, my mouth went dry. TAMAMSHUD finished. The phrase from the Somerton case. I whispered it aloud, without realizing. The breathing on the other end deepened. Satisfied. I tried to trace the calls. The system told me they weren't coming from the old line. They were being routed through it. Like an echo finding a path that still remembered sound. On the 10th night, I stayed later than usual. I turned off the desk lamp and sat in the dark, letting my eyes adjust, listening to the room breathe around me. At 1:12 a.m., the phone buzzed. I didn't answer. The breathing still came through the receiver, faint, patient. Then the tapping resumed, slower now, almost gentle. When I finally picked up, my hand was shaking. "I know what you're doing," I whispered. My voice sounded too loud in the room. The breathing paused. Then for the first time, a voice spoke. So quiet, I almost missed it. "Still listening," it said. The voice didn't sound old. It sounded tired. The calls followed me after that. Not immediately, subtly. My apartment phone rang at 1:12 a.m. the next night. The number displayed was blocked. But I knew before, I answered, breathing. I unplugged the phone. My mobile buzzed. No number, no notification, just the typing indicator flashing briefly before vanishing. I stopped sleeping properly. When I did drift off, I dreamed of train platforms that stretched into darkness, of people standing just beyond the light, waiting for something that never arrived. One night, I woke to the sound of tapping. Not from my phone. From the wall beside my bed. Slow, rhythmic, familiar. On the final call, the voice spoke again. "You've been very careful," it said. "Very patient. What do you want?" I asked. "To close the route," it replied. "We've been waiting for someone who remembers how." The room felt colder. The hum of my appliances faded, replaced by a distant low rumble, like a train moving underground. "I don't understand," I said, though part of me did. "You do," the voice whispered. "You always did." My phone screen lit up. A message appeared. "Route transfer complete." The time read 1:12 a.m. The voice exhaled, long and deep like relief. "Finished," it said. The line went dead. I still work nights. Not at the dispatch office. At home. Every night at 1:12 a.m., my phone lights up. Someone is typing. I never reply. I just listen. Because somewhere, a line that should have stayed silent is still open. And now, I'm the one making sure it never closes. I work the night desk because the hotel sleeps better when someone is awake. That's what the manager told me when he handed over the keys and the ledger, and explained, apologetically, that the position paid less than day shift. The hotel sits high in the mountains, isolated enough that weather often cuts us off from the nearest town. At night, the wind presses against the windows like a curious thing, and the halls stretch long and empty under low amber lights. Most nights, nothing happens. That's important. You need to understand how much nothing there usually is, which is why I noticed the room that never checked out. It started as a discrepancy in the register. Room 307 was marked occupied. That wouldn't have bothered me if I hadn't personally cleaned that room the night before. I remembered it clearly because it was the coldest room on the third floor, and the window didn't quite close all the way. No luggage, no trash, bed neatly made, empty. I assumed the system hadn't updated properly. These old hotels still rely on paper ledgers alongside digital records, and mistakes happen. I crossed it out and marked the room vacant. At 2:14 a.m., the ledger corrected itself. The ink hadn't changed color. It hadn't smudged. It simply read occupied again. I checked the room. That's rule 1 of night work. If something doesn't make sense, you verify it quietly. The hallway outside 307 smelled faintly of soap and cold air. The door was closed, locked. I unlocked it with my master key and stepped inside. The room was warmer than the hall. Not heated, used. The bedspread was folded back slightly, as if someone had sat there earlier. When I pressed my hand into the mattress, it yielded and rebounded slowly, holding heat. I stood very still. The bathroom light was off, but the mirror was fogged. I left the room and locked it behind me without turning on a single light. Back at the desk, I pulled the archived guest ledgers. Room 307 had a name, not a full one, just an initial. Check-in date, September 18, 1970. No check out. The Isdalen Valley is a quiet place even now. Locals don't like talking about the woman they found there decades ago. Burned, unidentified, carrying no clear past. But hotels remember things differently than people do. Hotels don't forget who stayed. I didn't sleep the next day. That night, the ledger updated again. Same room, same date, New time, 2:14 a.m. Someone had checked in. The second time I entered room 307, I brought a notebook. The bed was disturbed again. The sheets were warm. On the bedside table sat a neatly folded silk scarf, patterned and old-fashioned, smelling faintly of smoke and perfume. I did not touch it. In the closet, there were clothes, dresses with labels cut out, shoes polished and placed heel to wall, everything arranged with care. The bathroom mirror was clean this time, except for fingerprints, pressed from the inside. At night, hotels breathe. You hear it if you sit still long enough. The slow contraction of pipes, the whisper of air moving behind walls. After my third visit to room 307, the breathing felt closer, as if the building itself were aware I'd noticed. The ledger began updating every night. Always 2:14 a.m. Always the same room. The guest count never changed. I called the manager. He was quiet for a long time when I told him the room number. "That room stays occupied," he said finally. "By who?" Another pause. She never checked out. I started dreaming of the room. Not nightmares, just familiarity. In the dreams, I stood inside 307 while snow fell endlessly outside the window. The woman sat on the edge of the bed with her back to me, humming softly. I never saw her face. When I woke, my hand smelled faintly of smoke. One morning, I found the scarf folded on the front desk. I hadn't moved it. It was warm. On the seventh night, the ledger added a note beneath the entry. "Still waiting." I felt it then. An understanding settling into place. She wasn't a guest. She was on hold. I went to room 307 and sat in the chair by the window. I didn't turn on the lights. The room felt occupied in the way a train car feels occupied after everyone has disembarked. Residual presence, expectation. "I don't know how to help you," I said softly. The mattress dipped. The room warmed. From behind me, a voice whispered, not aloud, but close enough that my skin reacted. "Still not cleared." I nodded, though my throat wouldn't move. The final entry appeared at 2:14 a.m. on the 12th night. The ledger trembled slightly as the ink formed. Transfer in progress. My room key grew warm in my hand. I understood then what the hotel had been doing all these years. Holding space, maintaining a reservation that could never be completed, waiting for someone attentive enough to take over. The door to room 307 opened on its own. Inside, the bed was neatly made, cold. On the pillow lay a folded staff uniform. My size. I still work nights, but not at the desk. Room 307 is always occupied now, and the ledger hasn't updated since. Guests sleep better when someone is awake. Sometimes, around 2:14 a.m., I hear footsteps in the hallway. Someone checks the register. Someone notices the room that never empties. I sit on the edge of the bed and wait. After all, someone has to check in. I work nights because the ocean sounds different when fewer people are listening. That's not something they put in the job description. Officially, my position is overnight acoustic monitoring technician, assigned to a remote listening station on the coast. We collect data from hydrophones, sensitive underwater microphones anchored miles offshore, designed to pick up everything from whale calls to tectonic shifts. Unofficially, my job is to sit alone in a dim room, lit by soft instrument panels, and listen to the sea breathe. Most nights the sounds are predictable. Low-frequency groans from distant ice, the faint crackle of shifting currents, The long, mournful songs of things that don't care whether we understand them. It's soothing, if you let it be. Like white noise with a pulse. The signal started appearing at 2:48 a.m. Not loud, not dramatic, just present. At first I thought I was imagining it. I'd been fighting sleep, head nodding, eyes burning from hours of scrolling waveforms. When you're tired, your brain looks for patterns. It fills in gaps. So when I heard the sound, a slow rhythmic whoom, 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 I assumed it was just another current interacting with the seafloor. But when I sat up straighter, fully awake, the sound vanished. The waveform flattened. Nothing. I rubbed my eyes and leaned back, letting my focus soften. My breathing slowed without my permission. The sound returned. Whoom. Whoom. It wasn't coming from any known channel. Not whale, not seismic. Too regular, too close together. It sounded like breathing. I logged it as an anomaly and moved on. The next night, it happened again. Same time. Same pattern. 2:48 a.m. The signal only appeared when my attention drifted. When my eyes unfocused, when my body settled into that quiet space between wakefulness and sleep. If I leaned forward, clenching my jaw, forcing alertness, the sound cut out instantly, like something that didn't want to be watched. I began to test it. I held my breath. The signal paused. When I exhaled, it resumed, slightly delayed, as if adjusting. I sat very still after that. By the end of the week, the system logs showed something impossible. The signal wasn't being received, it was being generated. The source location traced back to our own station. Not the hydrophones, the building, specifically the monitoring room, specifically my console. I should have reported it. Instead, I brought a blanket. I told myself I was just being thorough, staying comfortable to stay awake. I dimmed the lights further, letting the screens glow softly in the dark. The hum of equipment blended with the distant crash of waves outside. At 2:48 a.m., the signal returned. Clearer now, deeper. It resonated through the floor, through the chair, through my chest. I closed my eyes without meaning to. The sound synced with my breathing almost immediately. In, out, in, out. My heartbeat slowed. I felt calm, held. I dreamed of water, not drowning, not panic, just depth. A vast, dark pressure that didn't crush, only contain. I floated, weightless, listening to the sound echo endlessly around me. When I woke, the clock read 3:12 a.m. I had been asleep for 24 minutes. The logs showed continuous data the entire time. I hadn't touched the keyboard, but someone or something had adjusted the gain, optimized the signal. I stopped sleeping at home after that. There was no point. The sound followed me. I'd lie in bed and feel it, subtle vibrations beneath the mattress, like waves moving under ice. When I closed my eyes, my breathing slowed automatically, syncing with something far below. At work, the signal grew stronger each night. It began to layer itself, multiple rhythms overlapping, harmonizing, not chaotic, purposeful, like a choir warming up. I realized then that it wasn't a call, it was a lesson. On the 12th night, the system generated a message, not audio, text. A new channel appeared on my screen, labeled simply synchronization. I stared at it, pulse quickening. The signal pulsed gently, encouragingly. I clicked. The room seemed to tilt. The sound deepened, surrounding me completely. I felt it in my teeth, my spine, the soft tissue behind my eyes. My breathing slowed further, guided now rather than mirrored. A line of text appeared. "You are adjusting well. Another line followed. Surface patterns resist. Depth remembers. I didn't know how long I sat there. Time felt irrelevant. Secondary. The ocean doesn't count minutes. The final message appeared just before dawn. Transfer complete. The signal changed then. Not louder, but closer. Intimate. As if it were no longer traveling through cables and water, but originating somewhere inside me. I stood up slowly. The room felt cold without the hum. The screens went dark. Outside, the ocean was unnaturally still. I understood what had been happening all along. The hydrophones hadn't detected the signal. They had been tuning it. And now, so had I. I no longer work at the station. Officially, I resigned. Unofficially, I'm still listening. Every night at 2:48 a.m., I wake without alarm. My breathing slows. The room fills with a familiar pressure, comforting and vast. Sometimes, when I let myself drift, I can hear others joining in, soft, distant rhythms sinking one by one. Not voices, breaths. The ocean doesn't need to rise. It doesn't need to move. It's already everywhere. And now, so is the signal. If you're very quiet, if you let yourself relax, if you listen instead of looking, you can hear it too.